Dr. Shamarka Keita's research on ancient Egyptian skull morphology reveals some fascinating insights. According to a study, the cranial morphology of ancient Egyptians shows a significant amount of variation, which is consistent with the population dynamics of the region. Keita's analysis of male crania from Upper Egypt, which span from the pre-dynastic to early dynastic period, found that the early pre-dynastic group showed tropical African affinities. In contrast, the late pre-dynastic and early dynastic groups exhibited more variation, with some individuals showing European-like traits. The findings suggest that ancient Egyptian skull morphology was shaped by a complex interplay of genetic, environmental, and cultural factors. Keita's research also highlights the importance of considering the regional and temporal context when interpreting the biological and cultural diversity of ancient Egypt. Dr. Keita's research suggests that the tropical African type was present in ancient Egypt from the earliest periods, specifically during the pre-dynastic era. Key findings: 1. Tropical African affinities. The early pre-dynastic group, circa 5500 to 3500 BCE, shows strong tropical African affinities in their cranial morphology. 2. Early presence. This suggests that the tropical African type was present in ancient Egypt from the earliest periods, contradicting the idea that they arrived later. 3. Population dynamics. Keita's research highlights the complex population dynamic of ancient Egypt, with various groups interacting and influencing each other over time. Implications: 1. Reevaluating ancient Egyptian identity. Keita's findings challenge traditional views of ancient Egyptian identity, emphasizing the importance of considering the African context. 2. African roots. The research supports the idea that ancient Egyptian culture and biology have African roots, with the tropical African type being present from the earliest periods. In summary, Dr. Keita's research suggests that the tropical African type was present in ancient Egypt from the earliest periods, highlighting the complex population dynamics and African roots of ancient Egyptian identity. Other anthropologists have also explored the biological and cultural affinities of ancient Egyptians. For instance, studies have shown that First Dynasty crania from Abydos demonstrate a greater affinity with Upper Nile populations, supporting research. Cranial variability and population diversity. A study on crania from the Heracompolis excavated in the late 19th century compared with more recently excavated crania sheds light on population diversity and cranial variability. Biological affinities of the ancient Egyptians. Research has explored the biological affinities of ancient Egyptians using skeletal remains, particularly crania and postcranial elements. These studies contribute to our understanding of ancient Egyptian biology and culture, aligning with Dr. Keita's findings on the tropical African affinities of early pre-dynastic groups.
Genetic evidence.
Studies have revealed that haplogroup E, particularly its subclades, was present in ancient Egypt from pre-dynastic times. Haplogroup E and its subclades. Haplogroup E is an African Y-DNA haplogroup that originated in Africa around 50,000 to 60,000 years ago. It has several subclades, including E1A, E1B, E2, and others. These subclades have distinct distributions and frequencies in different African populations. Ancient Egyptian samples. Several studies have analyzed Y-DNA from ancient Egyptian samples, including 1. Pre-dynastic samples. A 2017 study published in the European Journal of Human Genetics analyzed Y-DNA from 15 pre-dynastic Egyptian samples, circa 3300 to 2900 BCE. The results showed that 10 out of the 15 samples belonged to haplogroup E, with 6 samples belonging to the E1B1A subclade. 2. Dynastic samples. A 2013 study published in the American Journal of Physical Anthropology analyzed Y-DNA from 20 dynastic Egyptian samples, circa 1550 to 1069 BCE. The results showed that 12 out of the 20 samples belong to haplogroup E, with 6 samples belonging to the E1B1A subclade. Implications. The presence of haplogroup E subclades in ancient Egypt has significant implications for our understanding of ancient Egyptian population dynamics and cultural exchange. The data suggests 1. African ancestry. Ancient Egyptians had a significant amount of African ancestry, which is consistent with the idea that ancient Egypt was part of a broader African cultural and genetic landscape. 2. Population continuity. The presence of haplogroup E subclades in both pre-dynastic and dynastic samples suggests population continuity between these periods with a consistent genetic signature. 3. Cultural exchange. The data also suggests that there was significant cultural exchange between ancient Egypt and other African populations, which is consistent with archaeological and historical records. In conclusion, the presence of African Y-DNA haplogroup E subclades in ancient Egypt from pre-dynastic times highlights the significant African ancestry and population continuity in Egypt. The data also underscore the importance of considering ancient Egypt within a broader African context. Christopher Ehret's research suggests that the Afro-Asiatic language family originated in the Horn of Africa, specifically in Ethiopia, around 15,000 to 20,000 years ago. He proposes that the Proto-Afro-Asiatic language spread from the Horn of Africa to the Nile Valley, where it diversified into various branches, including Egyptian, Berber, Chadic, Cushitic, Omitic, and Semitic. Ehret's theory is based on linguistic and archaeological evidence which suggests that the Afro-Asiatic language family is closely tied to the spread of pastoralism and agriculture in Africa. He argues that the Proto-Afro-Asiatic speakers were pastoralists who migrated from the Horn of Africa to the Nile Valley, where they developed more complex societies and cultures. Linguistic evidence. Christopher Ehret cited several linguistic features as evidence for the origin of the Afro-Asiatic language family in the Horn of Africa. Some of the key features he mentioned include 1. Cognate sets. Ehret identified cognate sets, which are sets of words that are similar in both sound and meaning across different languages, as evidence of a common ancestral language. 2. Sound correspondence. He also identified sound correspondence, which are regular patterns of sound change between languages as evidence of linguistic relationships. 3. Morphological features. Ehret cited morphological features such as the use of prefixes and suffixes to indicate grammatical relationships as evidence of a shared linguistic heritage. Naphtha Christopher Ehret mentioned Naphtha in his research. Naphtha is an archaeological site in southern Egypt that dates back to around 7500 to 3500 BCE. Ehret cited the cultural and linguistic similarities between the people of Naphtha and the Afro-Asiatic speaking populations of the Horn of Africa as evidence of a shared ancestral heritage. Connection to Afro-Asiatic languages. Ehret's research suggests that the people of Naphtha spoke a language that was related to the Afro-Asiatic language family. He proposed that the linguistic and cultural similarities between Naphtha and the Horn of Africa reflected migration of people from the Horn of Africa to the Nile Valley around 10,000 to 8,000 years ago. Overall, Ehret's research provides a compelling framework for understanding the origins and spread of Afro-Asiatic language family and highlights the importance of Naphtha as a key site in the development of ancient Egyptian culture and language. Several archaeological sites along the Nile Valley demonstrate an African origin of ancient Egypt in addition to Naphtha. Some of these sites include Kadero, located in the Sudanese-Nubian region. Kadero dates back to around 4500 to 3500 BCE. The site features a unique blend of Neolithic and pre-dynastic cultural elements, highlighting the exchange networks between the Nile Valley and other African regions. El-Badari, situated in Upper Egypt, El-Badari dates back to around 4400 to 4000 BCE. The site's cultural and archaeological features such as the use of mud brick architecture and distinctive pottery styles, demonstrate strong connections to other African Neolithic cultures. Mahalas. Located in the Fayoum region of Egypt, Mahalas dates back to around 5500 to 4500 BCE. The site's archaeological record shows a gradual development of Neolithic cultures with strong affinities to other African Neolithic traditions. Nubian A group. The Nubian A group, dating back to around 3500 to 2800 BCE, is a cultural complex that flourished in the Sudanese Nubian region. The A group's material cultures, such as pottery and jewelry, demonstrate strong connection to other African cultures, highlighting the region's role as a cultural crossroads. Gebelin. Located in Upper Egypt, Gebelin dates back to around 5000 to 3500 BCE. The site's archaeological record shows a gradual development of Neolithic cultures with strong affinities to other African Neolithic traditions. These sites, along with Naphtali, provide a wealth of archaeological evidence that supports an African origin of ancient Egypt. They demonstrate the complex cultural dynamics and exchange networks that existed along the Nile Valley, highlighting the region's role as a hub of African cultural and technological innovation. The evidence I've discussed, including the archaeological sites along the Nile Valley, linguistic features of the Afro-Asiatic language family, skull morphology, provides a solid foundation for the African origin of ancient Egypt. This evidence is just the tip of the iceberg, and there is much more to explore. Complexity of ancient Egyptian genetics. The 2017 study of the Fayoum mummies from the Roman period is often misinterpreted or over-exaggerated to support a Eurasian claim of ancient Egypt. However, this study actually found that some of the mummies carried the African Y-DNA haplogroup EM78, which is a common haplogroup in East Africa. Contextualizing the study. Is essential to contextualize the study within the broader framework of ancient Egyptian history and genetics. The Roman period during which the Fayoum mummies lived was a time of significant cultural and genetic exchange between Egypt and other Mediterranean regions. African genetic continuity. Despite the influx of Eurasian genes during the Roman period, the study found that many of the mummies still carry African genetic markers. This suggests that there was a significant degree of genetic continuity between ancient Egypt and other African populations. Challenges to Eurasian origin claim. In light of this evidence, I challenge anyone claiming the Eurasian origin of ancient Egypt to stand on their claim in intellectual combat. The evidence from archaeology, linguistics, skull morphology, and genetics all point to an African origin of ancient Egypt.
Hey. I'm the coldest in the Baghdad doing it. Haters talking shit 'cause they can real out of ruin it. Josh shoot down, pick 'em up like truancy. I don't understand the boys, speak this fluently. In the chat, trolling every day so brutally. Sales centers up and it's stuck till it's usually. This ain't the type of smoke what he's talking through the music. Never seen it crash out, I bank confused. He prayed for the apex predator. Knock on the hunt, thinking 10 steps ahead of you. Endangered species, it just got dead of ya. Add these gorillas to the list. The only real ape is a nigga in my clique. Shout out to Fabo. Push the nigga, got you cap like a fago. Who's speaking on niggas and you know you're Danny Trejo. Your whole crew softer than the bitch from Vallejo. I come bust like thermo. You niggas all smoking mirrors on inferno. It's the diary of a madman, murder from my journal. Diary of a madman, murder from my journal. It's the diary of a madman, murder from my journal. Diary of a madman, murder from my journal. It's the diary of a madman, murder from my journal. Diary of a madman, murder from my journal. It's the diary of a madman, murder from my journal.
See, madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push. Oh.